Hey guys, welcome to Grammar and Writing Lesson 51. Let's get started with some vocabulary. Our first word, we only have two today, so our first word is epoch. Epoch, not epoch, not epoch, not epish. Epoch. An epoch is a particular period of time marked by distinctive activities or events. So it's showing that very specific, particular things happened during this period of time. We call that an epoch. So, for example, the Victorian epoch was characterized by rigid social conventions. So, the period of time that we sometimes know as the Victorian era or something like that, that is an epoch. It's a particular period of time. Everyone did things in the same general way during that period. So that's the Victorian epoch. An epoch is a particular period of time marked by distinctive activities or events. Epic. Epic. So this is similar, but not quite in the way it's pronounced. Epic. Epic is a long narrative poem centered upon a specific hero. Now, most of you are probably not expecting that. You were thinking, oh, I know what epic is. That means like it's super cool, awesome. No. An epic, that would be an epic as an adjective. This is epic as a noun. So epic as a noun is a long narrative poem. So it's a poem that's a story centered upon a specific hero. For example, Beowulf is an example of an epic poem. Beowulf is actually, to me, really interesting, but to most people, really strange and a little gross. But I think it's a really interesting epic poem. So let me know if you ever are interested in checking it out. Okay, so let's get some practice. Fill in the blank with the correct vocabulary word. Number 1, the Iliad and blank poem is a long account of the Trojan War and the Greeks' attempts to rescue Helen. This would have been Helen of Troy. Number 2, perhaps the 21st century will be in blank of peace and goodwill. Number 3, and blank of kings began with the anointing of Saul by Samuel. Think about it, is this talking about a period of time or a poem? And lastly, number 4, blank poems have been written about heroes like King Arthur and Robin Hood. I've read books on both of them. King Arthur's my favorite. Okay, let's check it. Number 1, you should have that the Iliad is an epic poem. It's about Odysseus primarily. Then we have perhaps the 21st century will be an epoch of peace and goodwill. So we're talking about a period of time here. We're also talking about a period of time with number 3. So it's an epoch of kings, began with the anointing of Saul by Samuel. And number 4, epic poems have been written about heroes like King Arthur and Robin Hood. Okay, let's get started with your writing page today. You should have page 96 from your writing. The title is Combining with Who. We're going to, again, do some of it together in class, so go ahead and grab that if you don't have it already. Let's go through it. Instead of introducing a person in one sentence and then giving more information about that person in the next sentence, you can combine both sentences by using the word who. So this makes your sentence more interesting. It makes it longer if you have a shorter sentence, and you need to have some variety, some long sentences, some short sentences. So this is a way of combining sentences to make them longer if that's what you need. It makes it more interesting, sometimes less repetitive. It makes it flow smoother. So it's a very just helpful tool in your writing to know how to combine sentences. Let's look at this one. We have 2 separate sentences. This novel was written by Samuel Clemens. Samuel Clemens was better known as Mark Twain. Let's combine them. This novel was written by Samuel Clemens, who was better known as Mark Twain. So Samuel Clemens is the person. We connect Samuel Clemens with that word who. So we take out our second Samuel Clemens. Oops, here we go. We take out the second Samuel Clemens and replace it with the word who was better known as Mark Twain. Notice we have a comma right here, setting it apart. That's because if I were to take this out and I just had this novel was written by Samuel Clemens, my sentence doesn't really change in meaning. I still understand the main meaning of the sentence. The sentence still works by itself. The basic idea has not changed if I take out that last part. So that's why I set it off with a comma. It's not essential to the structure and meaning of the sentence. All right, let's try the next example. Separately, we have athletes stay physically fit. They train every day. If you combine them, you could combine them in two ways. You could combine the first into the second or the second into the first. Athletes who stay physically fit train every day. Or you could say athletes who train every day stay physically fit. Now notice for this one, there's no comma because the idea is this is describing the athletes. It changes the meaning if you don't have it. Athletes who stay physically fit. What kind of athletes? The athletes who stay physically fit as opposed to the athletes who don't really care about their body, that kind of thing. So it changes the meaning of who it is. It's part of the grammatical structure, so we don't separate it with commas. Just like in the second one, athletes who train every day. So again, a specific category of athletes. So since this is telling us exactly who these athletes are, it's part of the structure of the sentence, and it cannot be separated by commas. Okay, let's get a little practice in, combining with who. The directions say, using who in sentences, combine each of the following groups of sentences by using the word who. In some cases, more than one answer is necessary. Use commas when necessary. Really, that should, sorry, I'm like lost in thought for a second. Really, that should say more than one answer is possible, not just necessary. There's a possibility of more than one answer. Okay, number one. Dr. Ortega went to San Juan for a week. Dr. Ortega is our landlady. Okay, here we see Dr. Ortega repeated. Dr. Ortega is the one that went to San Juan. Dr. Ortega is also the landlady. So the who needs to replace Dr. Ortega. You can replace either the Dr. Ortega in the first sentence with who or in the second sentence. It doesn't matter. But here's how you could combine it. Dr. Ortega, who went to San Juan for a week, is our landlady. Here we separate it with commas because if I were to take that part out, it doesn't change which Dr. Ortega we're talking about. So it's Dr. Ortega, who went to San Juan for a week, is our landlady. So we separate that with commas because it's not part of the grammatical structure of the sentence, holding it together and making it understandable. Number two, the man hung up. He called you. Okay, so the one that the who is going to replace is either the man or he. This is how I did it. The man who called you hung up. So here we have which man is the man who called you. So we cannot separate this with commas because we have to identify which man it is. So it's part of the grammatical structure of the sentence pinpointing who it is. The man who called you hung up. You could also say the man who hung up called you. And again, it would not be separated with commas because it's very essential to understanding the meaning of the sentence. And the last one, number three. This is the last example anyway. Nancy Lyons will be moving in June. Nancy Lyons has been my neighbor for 9 years. So here we have Nancy Lyons repeated in both sentences. I can replace one of them with who and join it into the other sentence. I chose to replace the second part, the second sentence, with who. Nancy Lyons, who has been my neighbor for 9 years, will be moving in June. It makes sense because you're saying we have explaining that she has been your neighbor for 9 years. She will be moving in June. Okay, that should get you started. So for your homework, you need to complete this page, complete combining with who, page 96. Let me know if you have any trouble, if you feel like you still don't understand something. Let me know, and I will do my very best to help you figure it out. Alrighty, have a wonderful day. Love you guys. Bye.